Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something super cool to take a look at as we have a brand new Noble Collection release, another Jurassic World release, as we have the Raptor Recon featuring Blue the Velociraptor. Now this is something that just recently was revealed, something I had no idea was coming, and the moment I saw it I placed an order for it. And I'm very intrigued to see what it actually looks like in person, because here on the box it looks really quite nice, and the images I had seen of it on Amazon, it also looked quite nice. But you can see the box art's pretty nice, very different from the previously released Noble Collection Jurassic Park figures that we have now that I believe you can still purchase on the Noble Collection website. But this time again we have Jurassic World and a totally different style to these figures compared to the previous ones. You can see a nice image over here of Velociraptor Blue, as well as yet again another image of the figure itself, and then it says that this is a fan favorite scene of Blue the Velociraptor leading the hunt for the infamous Dinosaur Indominus Rex. So we can clearly tell this is the moment where the raptors are running through the jungle. I would actually love to see them release all of the raptors in the kind of running with the headgear sort of thing going on, and it would be really neat to actually have that happen, to be able to have them all on display. But then here on the back, again, totally different type of an image showing the two figures, or like the backdrop and the figure itself kind of separate, and some more information and everything on it. And then another image over here with a closer shot of the head of Velociraptor Blue, and then another cool image there in the background. So let's go ahead, pop this box open, and check it out. So here is our backdrop, and then here is our Velociraptor Blue, and it definitely looks really nice. Like, I'm quite impressed with how good Velociraptor Blue looks. I was really quite impressed with the previously released Jurassic Park figures that Noble Collection had released, but this again looks really good. The only thing I could say looking at it is I think the tones of gray for Blue's body is a bit too dark compared to what they should look like, but outside of that, it looks pretty decent from this vantage point, and I'm actually really excited about this. It's really cool to see them releasing models like this, because it's neat to be able to have kind of cheaper, more budget-friendly versions of, models like this that have a really cool backdrop and everything. It seems very high quality, but it was only like $30 for this, so it's definitely a really good price for something like this. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this brand new Noble Collection Velociraptor Blue. So as far as the backdrop goes, you can see we basically have a really cool kind of an image there of a jungle setting, pretty much exactly what I would imagine the jungle looked like when the scene was taking place in Jurassic World. And then if you come down here, you have a nice black plastic stand. You can see the Jurassic World logo right there, and you also have two little pegs, and that is how you apply the raptor to this area of the base. The underside also sports the Universal and Jurassic World logos down here. Well, not even the logo, just the name of the website, but definitely a really cool companion piece to this Velociraptor Blue. But of course, the star of the show would be Velociraptor Blue herself. Now, she is not removable from the base. She is just one solid piece with the base. But if you get a nice closer look here at Blue, you can see again the head sculpt is pretty good looking. Like, it definitely looks about as screen accurate as I can remember on Velociraptor Blue. We have her sculpted with the mouth in an open position. You can see the tongue obviously is up there in the air, letting out a vocalization, and we lose focus, but she's obviously letting out a vocalization of some kind. The inside of the mouth also looks pretty good, even though the tongue's a little crooked. Looks like she was like maybe trying to act like a goofball or something and making a really goofy face, but the tongue from the front doesn't look that great because it's crooked, but from the side, it looks pretty decent. But you can see that the paintwork elsewhere on the inside of the mouth is fairly nicely done. We have a darker kind of a tone of red in there, and the teeth are all sculpted together, but they're painted pretty nicely. You don't really see very much sloppiness. They could have been, of course, better as far as the paintwork, rather than just kind of looking like a big bunch of sloppy white, but for what it is, I think it looks pretty decent. And again, my camera's losing focus. Really does not like this raptor. As far as the paintwork here on the face goes, you can see we have that dark grayish tone. We also have a light gray dry brushing, and that's really about it as far as the coloration goes for the primary body. But you can see the eye paint is actually really nicely done. The eye paint actually has various tones of color and really does look quite reminiscent to Velociraptor Blue, which I really quite like. Would have been nice to have like a gloss coat or something on it, but that's not the end of the world. The blue stripe does come up here, kind of circle around the eye. It should technically run up toward the palate a little bit and then down under the eye. So the blue stripe isn't exactly perfect, but it doesn't look terrible, I guess. As you lead along, you can see that kind of like tracking gear or whatever kind of gear that they apply to the Raptors. You can see it's basically like a camera so they can follow along with the Raptors' progress, see exactly what they're looking at and where they're going. And you can see that's nicely sculpted, painted with a black coloration, nice glossy black actually. As you lead down the course of the neck of the Raptor, you can see some decent looking skin texture, some creasing and everything in the neck. The blue stripe continues to run down along the course of the body, and I think the blue stripe does actually look pretty decent. Of course, there's more detail on it when it comes to the actual coloration on Velociraptor Blue in the film, but Velociraptor Blue actually has a pretty intricate paint scheme when you really look at her, so I can understand why they couldn't perfectly replicate it. I would say this is pretty much exactly what I expected as far as her coloration goes, except maybe a little bit of a lighter shade of gray. But as we lead down into the arm, you can see there is definitely a seam where the arm connects, which is really quite obvious. But as you move down, you've got some really nice muscle definition. The elbow is present right there, and a pretty nice looking hand sculpt, some nice scoots down the fingers. And we also have some nicely painted nails with a nice glossy black, so they did add a gloss coat to the nails. Would have really been nice had they added a gloss coat to the eye, but the nails do look quite nice. As you lead back into the stomach region, you can again see more really nice looking skin texture. You can see some skin wrinkles and skin folding and stuff right there. The blue stripe again continues to move along the course of the body as you lead out. You've got the spinal column up here on the top, and you can see there has been some light grayish dry brushings through here and there as you move through the course of the model to highlight the detail and give a little extra color variation. As you move back here, yet again, you can see a very obvious seam where the hip connects. But I don't really think it takes away from the model very much, especially because if you are familiar with these Noble Collection releases, you'll know that the previously released models also had that sort of thing going on. But as you move down, you've got some muscle definition there in the thigh. You can see the kneecap in the front of the leg, also a nice bulging calf muscle as it's currently tensing quite nicely since the opposing leg is actually up off of the ground as the Raptor's running. And you can see this foot, just as quickly as that foot's coming down over there, this foot is actually leaving the ground, so the Raptor is basically only on its toes at this point in time. And you can see again the claws all look really nice, they're nicely painted, and definitely looks really cool. You can't tell if there is a dew claw. So there is definitely a dew claw sculpted, but they did not paint it, which is a bit disappointing. But as you move back up here into the tail, you can continue to again see that the skin texture looks pretty good for what it is. We continue to have that blue stripe moving out like you see on Velociraptor Blue in the film as it ends here as we get closer to the tip of the tail. There's a nice curve there to the tail, but it's mostly kind of straight forward, or straight out I should say, because the Raptor's running along, so there wouldn't be too much curving going on, but you can see a little bit of a curve there to the tail. And then of course on this side you can see that the blue stripe doesn't run all the way up into the eye, and that's exactly as it should look. But the one thing I can say is the blue stripe, even though it ends before the eye, doesn't end close enough to the eye, because it actually would get closer to the eye before actually ending. And the dry brushing is really quite intense in the face. I do like the fact that they attempted to give some color variation, but I think maybe a little bit less as far as that dry brushing would have been a bit better. You can again see that, sort of like tracking gear right there. And as you move down through the course of the body, you're going to primarily see almost the same thing, except for the fact that you can see this arm is a little bit further back compared to the previous arm, the opposing arm. You can again see the seam right there, and the leg is much further forward over here compared to the opposing leg. And you can see, even though it's technically standing on this grass right now, that's obviously not what they're meant to be implying here. It's the Raptor running along, and that kind of vegetation or high grass or whatever you want to call it is just kind of in the way there. But you can see the foot sculpt looks really good. The sickle claw is actually up and extended. Again, the paintwork looks really nice for that area, and the leg sculpt looks really good as well. You can again see the seam just like we saw on the initial side, and then you lead out again with that nice curve to the tail. The base that we are running along here, you can see we have some nice vegetation, some variations of like long grass or something here that are kind of almost blowing in the wind, it looks like. And then you've got some rocks and stuff here, kind of like a dirty, muddy forest floor sort of a look. And one thing that I do really quite like is you can actually see Owen's motorcycle here as far as the tire tracks. So you can see that obviously Blue is running along and following along with Owen, which is really neat. Again, pretty much exactly as you see in the film. And you can also see that we have kind of like some little watery areas, some kind of like wet areas here as you move through, just giving a little bit extra as far as the base goes, definitely adding a little bit more appeal to the base. I really like that they went ahead and added that. They didn't, go lazy into this. Definitely adds a nice element of realism to the scene taking place. So it's actually really quite nice, even though there are some obvious, issues with it, like the seams and stuff, and the not so great paintwork. Overall, it's definitely a really cool interpretation of a Velociraptor Blue. And then when it comes to attaching the Raptor to the base, you can see you have two little peg holes there, so you just have to kind of match those up. Wow, I can't believe I got that on so perfectly on the first try. But you can see once you slide that on there, it stays on pretty darn nicely. It's definitely stable, and it completes the scene that we are trying to kind of recreate there. And definitely a very neat looking model. Like, even though there are some obvious slight issues with it, it overall has a pretty high quality look to it and a really nice display. So definitely the type of model that would look good in any collection, even if you collect only like high-end, statues and collectibles and stuff like that. I really feel like this one would still be a good addition to any collection because it does have a pretty good, pretty professional presentation as a whole. But as far as the size goes, it's not massive by any means. It is fairly small. For a length from the tail to the snout of Velociraptor Blue, you're looking at about 7.5 inches or around 19 centimeters. And then for a height, if we go to the top of the backdrop here, you're looking at about 4 3/4 inches or right around 12 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Noble Collection Velociraptor Blue. And you can definitely see it's pretty small as a whole, but still has a pretty good size. Like, I don't think it's like super tiny. If you have any of the previously released versions of the Noble Collection Jurassic models, this is definitely bigger than the Jurassic Park Velociraptors they had released. So you do have that going for it, but it's not massive in comparison to those figures. Definitely a little bit bigger, but not huge. But you can see again, it's kind of similar in size to like an Attack Pack Velociraptor Blue. And to further show you that, there's an Attack Pack sized Velociraptor Blue from Mattel. And you can clearly see one thing straight away is that the Noble Collection's actual accuracy of the sculpt is way better than what Mattel offered us. But you can also see that it's a little bit smaller, fairly similar in size overall, but definitely a little bit smaller. But I think the smaller size has a lot more to do with the proportions being more so correct than the Mattel version. Obviously, the Mattel version is more of a toy, whereas the Noble Collection version here is more of a collectible, so they did a much better job as far as sculpting it out in a way where it looks more screen accurate proportion-wise and just general appearance-wise. But obviously, that causes it to look a little bit more thin, a little bit smaller, even if they aren't too far off as far as the size goes. And I don't feel like we really need to do many comparisons, but just for one more, just in case you aren't a Mattel collector or anything like that, or maybe you're not interested in Papo, so you don't have the Papo Rex, then maybe one of these three figures might be something you have in your collection. And obviously, the Diabloceratops is a bit too further forward than it really should be. But you can clearly see, again, similar in size to the Eutyrannus. They're not too far off as far as a size goes. So that shows you that it's not a massive figure. But again, with the display, the backdrop, everything all together, it definitely has a really nice, convenient size for a quite high-quality feel of a model. So this brand new Noble Collection Jurassic World Raptor Recon diorama is really, really nice. I'm actually quite excited about this, and now that this and the hatching Jurassic Park Velociraptor has released, boy, I really, really hope that they are releasing more of this stuff, and especially since the hatching Velociraptor is a Jurassic Park 30th anniversary release, that makes me wonder if they're going to have more Jurassic Park 30th anniversary releases coming, and what exactly they could be releasing. Like, I can imagine a really cool scene of like some running Gallimimus or something like that would be phenomenal. But this Velociraptor Blue is also really nicely done, and even though, again, it does have some slight issues like the tone of gray being a bit on the darker side, the blue stripe not perfectly appearing as though it does on Velociraptor Blue in the film, again, as far as like the way it runs up into the face and stuff. And of course, the paintwork isn't near as high quality as you would see on an actual Velociraptor Blue, because there's like a lot of patterning and stuff through the course of the body that you don't really see on this, which is to be expected. I'm not surprised by that, because this is just, a very decently priced collectible. Again, at $30, it's a great price for this. Even with some of those issues, and of course the seams and everything showing, I still think it looks actually actually quite awesome and probably is one of the best Velociraptor Blues that I now have in my collection. Especially when it comes to the sculpt. I feel like the sculpt, they really quite nailed it. Like, it really does look like Velociraptor Blue from the film. And on top of that, we also have a really cool dynamic pose for her as she's running along, of course, recreating that Raptor Recon scene as they're kind of running through the jungle with the tracking gear and stuff on and searching out the Indominus Rex. Definitely recreates that scene quite nicely. And I love that they went through with the trouble of adding in little details like the motorcycle tire tracks and some kind of water and stuff as you move through the forest. Like, it looks really cool. And on top of that, the addition of that backdrop is fantastic. Like, that really solidifies that high quality look, high quality feel, and that's probably one of the things I think I like the most about this entire model as a whole. So even though it does have some slight issues, I'm honestly really excited about this, and I absolutely love this. And again, I really cannot wait to see what else they are going to produce moving forward. Fingers crossed, because I don't think anything's been announced yet, but fingers crossed there is more coming, and now I really need to get that hatching Velociraptor in my hands as well, because I can't wait to see what that looks like now after checking out this Velociraptor Blue. So one way or another, if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine on Amazon. Unfortunately, it sold out pretty much immediately after I placed an order for it, but I'd imagine it's only a matter of time before they get a restock and it's back in stock. So make sure you check the link in the description that will take you to the listing on Amazon. Maybe it'll be in stock, and if it's not, add it to your wish list, and hopefully it'll be back soon. And make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.